So there's another family of chords that's really popular, especially coming out of the Romantic and Impressionistic periods. They're called the augmented sixth chords. Augmented sixth chords. Okay. And they're aptly named because they have an augmented sixth within them. But there's 4 different versions of them that we're going to learn, and the first one is called the Italian augmented sixth. Italian aug sixth. Okay. The way you make this is you simply take your root. We're talking about scale degrees. Where you take your root, you take your sharp 4, so your raised 4th, and then your flat 6 or your lowered 6th. Okay. But more importantly is where they go. Okay. In fact, the flat 6 doesn't usually go on top. It actually goes on the bottom. So it's if you're stacking these, it's more like this. Flat 6 is on the bottom, then your 1 is in the middle, and your sharp 4. Okay, so this is if you have 3 notes. If you were to have 4 notes, you would double the 1. So you might have another 1 over here. So you'd have a bunch of people singing 1. You wouldn't really want to double the 4th or double the 6th. They sound very, they have a lot of dissonance, and they need to resolve, a lot of suspension kind of thing, and they need to resolve. And the way they resolve is like this. Let's go ahead and make one here, and we'll see how this works. Okay, so let's keep it really short. We're in the key of C major, just to keep everything easy. So C major, but again, this could work in any key. In the key of C major, 1 is like this, right there is C. This is our 1. Our flat 6, let me go ahead and use a different color here. Our flat 6 is going to be A flat. So A is our 6th, and we're simply flatting it, so this is our flat 6. And our sharp 4 is going to be F sharp. Okay. If you wanted, let me go ahead and finish this off. Sharp 4. Okay, and this is going to be F sharp. Okay. If you wanted, you could have another note here, doubling the root. Okay, so your chord could look like this. Okay, maybe, or you might have a lower A flat. For example, just for completion's sake, you could have a bigger chord with the bass having the A flat down here. Maybe you have like a 4-part choir. Your C would be maybe here. Another C there, and then your high sopranos are singing the F sharp. Okay, these chords are equivalent. We still have flat 6 on the bottom. We're doubling the roots in the middle, and then we have the F sharp or the sharp 4 on top. Okay, so going back to this, let's see how they resolve. Okay, so the part where you have the flat 6 is going to go down. Is going to go down to the 5th. Go down to the 5th. Okay, it's going to go down to 5. So maybe over here, this might be easier to see here. This is going to go down to 5. And in fact, the sharp 4 is also going to go up to 5. Okay, so you have this kind of half step thing going here. If we have A flat and F sharp going to G in this case, it sounds like that. Okay, there's the flat 6, there's the sharp 4, and then they both resolve out to 5. So you get this half step going down, and this half step going up. And it's kind of cool because you get this double leading tone effect, kind of. I mean, this is more of a leading tone than this because it's not going up. But you still get a half step approach, which is really kind of cool. If you add in the 1, it sounds like this. Here's flat 6, here's 1, here's sharp 4, and then they resolve out. But where does the 1 go? Okay, so we got this 1. Now, usually what you can do, you have kind of 2 options here. You can either go down, so your 1 resolves down. And if you have another 1, you can resolve up, like this. Okay, you can resolve up. If you do this motion, and then remember this is going there, this is going there. If you do this motion, 1 is going to 2, and 1 is going to 7. So you got this 1, doubled 1, going to 7 and 2. Okay, so super simple. Everything's moving very, very little. 1 is going down by a half step. 1 is, and then the other 1 is going up by a whole step. So really close motion. Everything else is moving by half step. So if you play this entirely, you get this. Like that, and then they both resolve out to like this. Okay, so you get this really nice approach to a 5 chord, which means because this is setting up the dominant, that means that this function is a subdominant function. Subdominant function. Okay, just like a 4 chord, just like a 2 chord, but it's really minor 2 maybe in this case. But this is kind of cool because it sounds a little bit easier if you went 2 to 5, especially if you jump around. But maybe if we didn't, or a 4 to a 5. Maybe if we want to keep it really nice, we can go A, C, go ahead and invert this, F. So this would go this way, right? So if we had this, A, C, and F, going to a G chord. Okay, that's pretty normal. But this sounds so much smoother if you want to get into little chromaticism sounding stuff. Okay, so you might want to use an Italian augmented sixth instead to set up your 5 chord. And then you simply, instead of like, maybe you had this progression before, this is really normal. If you want to make it a little bit spicier, you could ignore the 4 here. And instead, maybe just or let's get a different color entirely. Instead of using the 4 chord here, you can just use an augmented 6 chord, okay, or an Italian 6th. And to write Italian 6th in short notation, you just do IT plus 6. IT plus 6, like that. So this stands for Italian, this means augmented, and this means 6th, okay? So, and then it's usually spelled like this, where you have the flat 6, or I'm sorry, over here, where you have flat 6 on the bottom, sharp 4 on top, and they move away to the 5 chord, okay? So they always move to a 5 root position chord, okay? You can write this if you want, but you don't have to, okay? So this is one way to write an augmented 6 chord. The Italian is probably the easiest one, and the one everyone starts their examples with. In later videos, we will see all the other ones. But one more thing before we go, why is it called an augmented 6 chord? Well, here's why. Okay, you take your flat 6, you take your sharp 4, you take your flat 6, and you take your sharp 4, and you go out, right? Okay, but this is the whole point. This is the augmented 6th. If you were to take A flat, for example, let's just figure out this really quick. A flat to F, just normal F, that's a major 6, right? A major 6, A flat to F, okay? If you make it F sharp, and that's because F is in the key of A flat. If you make it F sharp, now you've changed the major 6th into an augmented 6th, okay? So an A6, and that's why it's called an augmented 6 chord, okay? One more thing before we finish up, let's see how you can resolve elsewise, okay? It's kind of the same, so let's go ahead and write our notes the same. So we're going to keep this chord right here. I'll even use the same colors to keep it really easy. We got our 1 E, we can even throw a 2 in, or another 1 just for the heck of it. Let's go ahead and use this color. Okay, and then finally we have the flat 6 on the bottom, flat 6. Okay, now these are still going to move away and get to the 5th, okay? That's not going to change. This is still going to go to a 5th chord. But what you can do instead is keep this the same. Keep 1 the same. So maybe that yellow 1 is going to stay there. The yellow 1 will stay. It doesn't really matter. And then the blue 1 is going to go up to the 3rd, here. Okay, so you get this chord instead. This chord is, if you want to figure it out yourself, you can. But if you look at this chord, this is simply C, E, G. This is C major. C major. Okay, you have G on the bottom, so this turns into a 1, 6, 4 chord. Okay, so you can do this. Now, because it's a 1 chord, you might say, well, it's a tonic sound, but kind of, but not really, but mostly. Instead of sounding like a tonic entirely, you do have the 5th on the bottom. You do have that 5th, or the G in this case, on the bottom, and therefore, it kind of sounds like a dominant chord. So it's like a really tame dominant, if you will. It sounds kind of like a tonic, but a little bit like a dominant. So it's not as critically sounding as a dominant, and it's not quite as finishing sounding as a tonic. It's somewhere in between, okay? So usually what you will see is either the Italian augmented 6 chord going to a 5, or the Italian augmented 6 chord going to a 1, 6, 4. Okay, remember, flat 6 on the bottom going down to 5, so you have to end with a 6, 4 here. Okay, so those are your 2 options on getting away from an Italian augmented 6 chord, and we'll see you in the next video for the next augmented 6 chord.